Prabhu ji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu, clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Krishna Kinkar?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Beta, I'll just speak a couple of minutes about Prabhu. Then Prabhu can start the class.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Mataji. We welcome all of you for this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Before we start, I'll give you a quick introduction about His Grace Devakinandan Das Prabhu. Most of us, we know his glories. He is a very senior, I shouldn't say very senior, he's the foremost disciple of our beloved Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. And he has been serving Guru Maharaj for many, many years. And Maharaj used to tell me that he started studying Srimad Bhagavatam at a very early age of around 13, 14 years. So since then, he has been studying Srimad Bhagavatam. And apart from that, he has been actively supporting GBC for last many years. Currently, he is the General Counsel for the GBC worldwide and providing a lot of services to them. And apart from that, we have seen the wonderful temple in Rajkot, which has come up last year. So it was under his leadership that the temple would come up, and Yeshomati Prabhu, he said in the regional GBC of India that this temple is nothing but a Taj Mahal. So again, this is the credit, goes to Devakinandan Prabhu. And one more thing, Maharaj used to say about Devki Prabhu, that Devki has got a time for everything. And I witnessed myself, when I was in Singapore for a couple of weeks with him, I witnessed that how expertly he manages everything. So today we are very fortunate. It's blessings in disguise. People are talking about coronavirus. So we are fortunate to have this association, albeit online. So now we'll pass on to Devki Prabhu to give us the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, and followed by we will have a quick question answer session. So thank you so much, Devki Prabhu, for being online with us, taking time for this. We are grateful to you, and now hand over to you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Swayam Sruti Prabhu. Very
Hare
kind
Krishna.
words. Though I would really say that whatever achievements that we have gotten in Rajkot and wherever the devotees have come together is really the great mercy of our spiritual master and the combined efforts of all of you, everyone, every single one of you. And welcoming all the devotees who have logged on here. Very nice to see so many devotees. There are so many different dynamics to being on an online class. For one thing, of course, we don't see each other personally, and nothing beats the personal touch. But then we also found that many devotees who previously found it difficult to travel to the center or to temple for a variety of reasons, they were actually the ones who became enthused because they realized from wherever they were, they could actually connect. So that was very helpful for them actually. Of course, Swayam Prabhu and myself were discussing privately just now. We were talking to each other. Of course, once we get online, only the good Lord knows how we are listening and in what position we are and whether we are hearing or not. So if Guru Maharaj was here, he would want to know, whether we are really hearing or we are not hearing. But that is between us and the Super Soul. And for all of you, that will never happen. I have to give some law lectures online. So whenever I give the law lectures online, the students are all on audio, but nobody wants to show video. Because, if we see them, then we will know that they are not really hearing. But because this is Bhagavatam, everyone is so keenly ready to hear. So we'll spend a few minutes, maybe we'll spend some time looking at a very wonderful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is from the 6th canto, 16th chapter, 34th verse. 6th canto, 16th chapter, 34th verse. So I have the verse here with me. Maybe what I'll do is read the verse very quickly, and then I can read the translation as well as the purport. So my request to everyone is keep yourselves on mute, because if you don't, then there will always be some interference somewhere, and it causes a bit of disturbance. I'm hearing some feedback here and there, so some of your systems are not on mute actually, so you have to keep them on mute. So let's chant 6:16:34. I'll just chant it. Chitraketu uvacha ajita jita samamatibihi sadhubir bhavan jitatmabir bhavata vijita stepi cha bhajatam akadmatmanam yat atmadoti karunaha. Chitraketu uvacha. King Chitraketu said, Ajita, O my unconquerable Lord, Jitaha, conquered, Samamatibihi, by persons who have conquered the mind, Sadhubihi, the devotees, Bhavan, your Lordship, Jita Atmabihi, who have completely controlled the senses, Bhavata, by you, Vijitaha, conquered, they, Api, also, Cha, and Bhajatam, to those who always engage in your service. Akama Atmanam, with no motives for material profit. Yaha, who, Atmada, giving yourself, Ati Karunaha, extremely merciful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the key. I'll read the translation. Chitraketu said, O unconquerable Lord, although you cannot be conquered by anyone, you are certainly conquered by devotees who have control of the mind and senses. They can keep you under their control because you are causelessly merciful to devotees who desire no material profit from you. Indeed, you give yourself to them, and because of this, you also have full control over your devotees. Let's hear the purport. The Lord and the devotees both conquer. The Lord is conquered by the devotees, and the devotees are conquered by the Lord. Because of being conquered by one another, they both derive transcendental bliss from their relationship. The highest perfection of this mutual conquering is exhibited by Krishna and the gopis. The gopis conquered Krishna, and Krishna conquered the gopis. Thus, whenever Krishna played his flute, he conquered the minds of the gopis, and without seeing the gopis, Krishna could not be happy. Otherwise, other transcendentalists, such as jnanis and yogis, cannot conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only pure devotees can conquer him. Pure devotees are described as samamati, which means that they never deviate from devotional service under any circumstances. It is not that devotees worship the Supreme Lord only when happy. They worship him even when in distress. Happiness and distress do not hamper the process of devotional service. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says that devotional service is ahaituki apratihata, unmotivated and uninterrupted. When a devotee offers devotional service to the Lord without any motive, anya bilashita sunyam, his service cannot be hampered by any material condition, apratihata. Thus, a devotee who offers service in all conditions of life can conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, a devotee who offers service in all conditions of life can conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A special distinction between devotees and the other transcendentalists, namely the jnanis and yogis, is that jnanis and yogis artificially try to become one with the Supreme, whereas devotees never aspire for such an impossible accomplishment. Devotees know that their position is to be eternally servants of the Supreme Lord and never to be one with him. Therefore, they are called samamati or jitatma. They detest oneness with the Supreme. They have no lusty desires for oneness. Instead, their desire is to be freed from all material hankerings. Therefore, they are called nishkama, desireless. A living entity cannot exist without desires, but desires that can never be fulfilled are called kama, lusty desires. A living entity cannot exist without desires, but desires that can never be fulfilled are called kama, lusty desires. Kamaistair ritatnyanaha. Because of lusty desires, non-devotees are deprived of their intelligence. Thus, they are unable to conquer the Supreme Lord, whereas devotees, being freed from such unreasonable desires, can conquer the Lord. Such devotees are also conquered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they are pure, being free from all material desires, they fully desire to the Supreme Lord. They fully surrender to the Supreme Lord. And therefore, the Lord controls them. Therefore, the Lord conquers them. Such devotees never aspire for liberation. They simply desire to serve the lotus feet of the Lord. Because they serve the Lord without desires for remuneration, they can conquer the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is by nature very merciful, and when he sees that his servant is working without desires for material profit, naturally he is conquered. Devotees are always engaged in service. Savai manaha Krishna padaravindo, vachamsi vaikunta gunanuvarnane. All the activities of their senses are engaged in the service of the Lord. Because of such devotion, the Lord gives himself to his devotees as if they could use him for any purpose they might desire. Of course, devotees have no purpose other than to serve. When a devotee fully surrenders and has no aspiration for material profit, the Lord certainly gives him all opportunities for service. This is the position of the Lord when conquered by his devotees. Jai Shri Prabhupada, Transcendental Purports Ki. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So this is a very important verse sung by Chitraketu Maharaj. And Chitraketu Maharaj was a great king. And somehow or another, he had a desire to have a child. And Bhagavatam tells us that he desired his child so much that somehow when Angira Muni came to his ashram or to his kingdom, Angira Muni actually wanted to come to speak about self-realization to the king. Because these are what the great devotees do when they travel and preach. However, when he saw that the king was so morose, and he saw that the king had an unfulfilled desire, and he thought that perhaps the king would not be prepared to hear self-realization. So then, when he questioned the king's moroseness, he came to understand that the king had a great, deep desire to have a child. Angira gave him that benefit, but he said that this child that you want will be a source of happiness as well as a source of distress. Harsha, Marsha. And Chitraketu Maharaj thought, well, that is the nature of the world, isn't it? Everything that has that is come into this world has happiness and distress. So I will accept it. But in his eagerness to accept something which was material, he did not realize that when material happiness comes, we are all right. But when the distress comes, no matter how theoretically we say we are ready, when it actually hits us, it's a very different thing. And because we are normally volunteering for happiness, isn't it? We're all volunteering. If you ask everyone who's going to volunteer for happiness, everybody's hands go up. So naturally, happiness becomes pleasing to us. But Bhagavatam tells us that not only does happiness we run after, but the distress runs after us. And nobody puts up their hands to ask for distress. But distress comes. So when actually distress comes before us in its naked form in this material world, it becomes very difficult for us to tolerate it, especially when we are not the great exalted devotees. So when Chitraketu Maharaj became very attached to his child who was born, and when that child was somehow killed, poisoned in the night by his other queens who were envious, Chitraketu Maharaj saw no hope left in this world. He swooned away with his queen, and the whole kingdom plunged into darkness. Bhagavatam says at that point of time, two sadhus, Angira Muni and Narada Muni, came back. And Narada Muni initiated Chitraketu Maharaj into the science of devotional service. And he did that by an amazing event. He actually summoned the living entity who was the child of the king to become alive by asking that soul of the living entity to inhabit the living entity again. And when he woke up, Narada Muni asked him a very important question. He said, "My dear living entity, please arise and see your father before you." And the living entity, spirit soul, said, "Oh dear Narada, which father are you talking about? Are you referring to the father before this? Or are you referring to the father before that?" And in that way, Chitraketu Maharaj's eyes were open, Jnana Chakshu. That is why we need the association of great saintly personalities. Because just by their touch and their association, they deliver us from this cycle of material happiness and distress. And then Chitraketu Maharaj became very fortunate to be initiated by Narada Muni into devotional service. And at that point of time, Narada Muni gave him instructions to meditate on the form of Lord Sankarshan. And in the 6th canto, 16th chapter, he takes darshan of Sankarshan, who becomes very pleased with him. And this is the first verse that comes in that series of prayers. So that's why this verse is very important, because whatever we speak, our first words are always very important, isn't it? Because what we say is very often a measure of who we are. And what a great devotee speaks in the first verse is considered extremely important. Just like his last verse is always considered also very important, because they summarize all his ideas. So here we understand the character of a great devotee, and Chitraketu Maharaj is also discussing this wonderful relationship that we speak about in devotion service. So actually, in this verse, what is really important is that Chitraketu Maharaj is trying to explain to us what is the greatness and speciality of the devotional service and relationship between the Lord and his devotees. So in one sense, it's a very practical verse for us to understand. The important thing to understand about this verse is that the Lord is considered to be unconquerable. This is very important. Being unconquerable means actually nobody can know Krishna. When you say someone cannot be conquered, it also means he cannot be controlled. Because when you conquer someone, the natural thing after conquering something is to control it, isn't it? If you want to conquer an island or a state, you conquer it not to after that give it away to someone. You conquer it because you want to control it. The only person who doesn't control what he conquers is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because everything belongs to Krishna. So there's nothing for him to conquer and there's nothing for him to control. Everything is his. That is why in Ramayana, for example, it comes to mind now, after Lord Ram conquered Lanka, he should have become heir, or he should have been made king of Lanka, because by Vedic principles he conquered it. But he did not. He did not wish that Lanka should be his. And that is why he left Lanka to be under the care of Vibhishana. So it's very clear that Lord Ram could have even conquered Kishkinda. Even though he had arrangement with Sugriva that he would install him, he could easily have negotiated to say that Kishkinda should be mine after I kill Vali. But he did not. He put Sugriva as the king of Kishkinda, and he put Angada as the heir apparent. So actually the Lord is not attached to anything, because frankly everything belongs to him. So that is why the first point about Krishna is that no one can control something that is actually controlling you. And because Krishna is the source of everything in this world, therefore he is considered to be unconquerable. So the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, they say that no one can know Krishna and no one can defeat him. He is power personified. If he cannot be conquered, that means he cannot be controlled. That means he cannot be defeated. Very important. I remember Guru Maharaj used to like this verse from Mukundamala Stotra. It describes the strength of the Lord, isn't it? Prithvi Renuranur Ayam Sikhanikaha Falgu Spulingo Lagu Tejo Nishvasvanam Marutanutaram Randram Sushukshmam Nabha Shudra Rudra Pitamaha Prabritaya Hita Samasta Sura Drishte Yatra Satarako Vijayate Shripada Duli Kanaha. And here we understand why Krishna cannot be conquered. Because King Kulashekar is saying, Krishna is so powerful, he is actually the savior of the whole earth and the whole creation. He is so powerful that in his presence, this great earth, is no greater than a speck of dust. In the presence of the Lord, all the waters of the ocean may be vast, but in his presence they are mere droplets. In the presence of the Lord, the totality of the fires of this material world may seem insurmountable, but in front of him they are minute sparks. The winds may be raging and powerful, they can smash things in this world. But in front of Krishna, it is like Nishvasvanam, just a sigh, and that also a faint sigh. And this entire expanse of sky that we see, it is like a tiny hole, nabihi, like a tiny hole, like you would have as a navel. And so Krishna is so powerful that even the great devatas like Rudra, like grandfather Brahma, they are all very insignificant, like insects before the Lord. And these devatas, they are so small that they cannot even come before the Lord. And therefore, Kulashekar, he concludes very nicely by saying, if we take even one particle of dust from that Lord's lotus feet, we should understand that one dust can conquer. The word that's used is the same point that Chitraketu Maharaj is bringing up. It can conquer all, everything. That is why, as devotees, it's so important not to take for granted the prayers of Bhagavatam that glorify the Lord. Because all these prayers, they give us hope, they give us strength, they make us understand very importantly that the Lord is so powerful that He is the one who can conquer everything. And therefore, if we take the shelter of the Lord, we will always be protected by Him. So, this is very important. And the implication is, just like Gajendra said, Param Parayanam, he must become the source of all shelters. So many shelters are there, but Krishna is the source of all shelters. And yet, in this verse, Chitraketu Maharaj is saying, my Lord, you are unconquerable, but you can be conquered by the devotees. And that means by the great devotees of the Lord, the pure devotees, the exalted devotees. Bhagavatam is full of them. Look at Mother Yashoda. Isn't it true that Mother Yashoda just conquered Krishna? Here was Krishna so powerful, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you all do so much Damodar Leelas, isn't it? In Abu Dhabi and in Dubai and in UAE. So you have heard the pastime of the Lord, how he appeared to be fearful of Mother Yashoda and how he allowed himself to be conquered by her, just like a child gets conquered by the mother. That's why when Kunti Mata remembers this, I think it is in first canto, 8th chapter, 31st verse or 32nd verse. Over there, Kunti Mata says so nicely, Gopya dade tvaikritaga sidamatava yate dashashru kalilanjana sambramaksham Vaktram niniya bhayabhavanaya stitasya Samam vimohayati bhir apiyad bibheti. She says so nicely there. She's remembering, She says that Krishna, Mother Yashoda, she took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense. Since when does the Lord commit an offense? But the Lord appeared as a child in Vrindavan, and all children commit offenses, isn't it? And so, Kunti Mata is remembering, in the presence of Mother Yashoda, you behaved just like a boy. And she took a rope to bind you because you were mischievous and you committed an offense of breaking all the pots and spilling all the butter. And when that happened, your perturbed eyes, they became overflooded with tears. And all the mascara that you have, they were washed away from your eyes. Just imagine, this is the fear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can exhibit. Does it mean that he's conquered? Yes, he can be conquered by his great devotees. And Kunti Mata says, and you were afraid, Bhaya. You were afraid, even though fear personified is afraid of you. Imagine that. Fear personified is afraid of Krishna. In Bhagavatam, Kapila Dev says that the wind blows out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The fire burns in this world because of fear of the Personality of Godhead. And yet, this Personality of Godhead, in the presence of Mother Yashoda, he appeared very fearful. And even to a glorious devotee like Kunti Mata, what does she say? She says, this sight of you is just bewildering to me. Vimohayati. It is bewildering to me. So, Mother Yashoda conquered Krishna. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that the gopis conquered the heart of Krishna. And at the same time, Krishna also conquered the devotees. Krishna conquered Mother Yashoda's heart. And that's why she dropped the stick and decided, I can't beat Krishna. He conquered a heart in such a way that Mother Yashoda had no life apart from Krishna. Except for Krishna, there was no reason for Mother Yashoda's existence. That's why each of them conquered each other. When Krishna dived into Yamuna to fight Kaliya the serpent, when Mother Yashoda heard about it, what happened to her? She came all the way to the banks of Yamuna, and when she saw Krishna apparently battling with this terrible snake, the thought that her son could be in trouble made her just faint. She fainted. And all the gopis who were standing on that lake that day, they all fainted. How many times do we faint when we think Krishna is in trouble? Most of the time we faint because we are in trouble and not because anybody else is in trouble. But this is the greatness of the gopis. And the greatness of the gopis was so powerful and they were so fixed with Krishna that finally Krishna himself in the 10th canto, he exhibited the pastime of renunciation, if you remember. Halfway through the Ras Leela, when all the gopis started, each gopi started thinking, only I am with Krishna. Krishna, to check that feeling, of apparent ownership of Krishna because he cannot be owned by anyone, he exhibited the renunciation opulence and he disappeared. And that heightened the feelings of separation and devotion from the gopis. And after the gopis sang their beautiful songs of separation, Krishna became so conquered by their songs, so conquered by their devotion, that what did he do? He appeared again. And in the chapter entitled The Reunion, if you read Krishna book, it is in the 10th canto, 32nd chapter, 22 verse. 10, 32, 22. Krishna sang so nicely at the end of that whole thing. Naparayeham niravadya samyujam swasadu krityam vibudhayusapivaha yama bhajandur jaragera shrinkalaha samvrishcha tadva pratiyatu sadhuna. When you read the word sadhuna, the word to word of sadhuna is very important. Sadhuna means by the good activity itself. That's why Maharaj always told us that Bhagavatam is really about behavior. Krishna is conquered, if you read carefully, if you study carefully, Krishna is conquered not by what the devotees say. Krishna is conquered by how the devotees behaved towards him. The behavior is what attracts Krishna. So if our behavior is spotless, then even if people may find some defects apparently, still Krishna is so kind that he somehow or another feels that he can give us his mercy. And that's what he does. Krishna is so kind, he has the ability to extract good things even from bad things. Just like the sun, sun has the quality to extract urine from the floor, just like an extract water. But sun is never touched by urine or water. So Krishna is like that. And Krishna teaches us that the devotees of the Lord are like that too. Even in poison, they can find nectar. And that's why Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters, they're so kind to us. Because only they knew our defects and we knew our defects. But despite all that, they gave us so much mercy. That's why these great exalted devotees can conquer Krishna. And that's why Krishna in that verse of 10:32-22 said so nicely that, O gopis, I am not able to repay my debt of gratitude and debt to you. Why? Because of your spotless service. So nice. Spotless, no spots, spotless service. Even within a lifetime of Brahma, I cannot repay my debt to you. And he says, your connection to me is faultless. It is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me. You have cut off all domestic ties. The gopis, they were prepared to renounce everything just for the sake of Krishna. And these domestic ties, Krishna says, they are very difficult to break. And yet you gave up everything just for me, Krishna. And then he said, just please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. So nice. It means that by good activity, good devotional activity, Krishna actually becomes very attracted to the devotees. And the devotees, by their wonderful attraction to Krishna, they cannot help but become conquered by Krishna. So the devotees are controlled by Krishna because they want to. We don't want to be completely controlled by Krishna. Very often, struggling living entities, even when we take up devotional service, we want to take up devotional service, but somewhere we want to have some independence. Somewhere we want to have something, some corner, and we keep that corner away. But that's the corner that gathers dust. So Krishna conquered the devotees with his flute, with his personality, with his prayers. He conquered Mother Yashoda as a sweet child. He conquered the queens of Dwarka, sometimes playing the perfect part of a husband, always listening to them. He played the perfect part of a father, a grandfather. Even great impersonalists like Sanat Kumaras, when they just smelled the aroma of the tulsi leaves offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, they became conquered by him. And then, when they became conquered by him, they performed such wonderful devotional service that the great Supreme Personality of Godhead actually became conquered by them. Look at Sudama from the 10th canto. Sudama had nothing to conquer the Lord with. He had no material assets. He and the Lord once upon a time were ex-schoolmates. That's it. Supposing you were ex-schoolmates with today's Prime Minister, your only claim to fame is to tell people around you, hey, we used to be in school together. But chances are he won't remember you and you cannot conquer him. But in spiritual world, Sudama had nothing. And his wife was so anxious to get something. And because she could not get something, she implored him, you remember Krishna. Now he's really high and mighty. You go and see him, ask him for something. Sudama in his heart did not want to ask Krishna for anything because he felt that whatever desires I have, if they are lawful, Krishna will provide. Krishna knows my needs. Why should I ask him for anything? If you notice one important point in this verse, the purport, Prabhupada speaks about desires. He says that no living entity in this world can be desireless, nishkama. It is not possible. But the great devotees of the Lord dovetail their desires to satisfy Krishna. That is why Krishna becomes bound by them. If you study in Bhagavatam all the great devotees of the Lord, they always align their desires to the desire of the Lord. Whatever pleased the Lord is what they did. Arjuna's perfection in Bhagavad Gita is that initially he was wondering why I should fight this war. But when Krishna told him, you must fight it because it is my instruction, he aligned his desire with Krishna's desire. When we align our desire with Krishna's desire, the result of that is that his plans become our plans. And his plans become revealed to us either through Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, or very often through the agency of our spiritual masters, Srila Prabhupada's books, and all our Siksha Gurus. This is how devotees become conquered. And that is why Sudama was unconquered by the agitations of the mind. He was not conquered by hunger and thirst. He was not conquered by, in the words of Prabhupada in 6:1634, any unreasonable desires. Such a nice point Prabhupada says. The great devotees of the Lord never ask unreasonable things from Krishna. The only reasonable thing that they ever ask is, Krishna, somehow or another, please keep me engaged in your transcendental loving service. And if they have any issues in the world, they submit it before Krishna. And then they pray that Krishna knows best. And they pray to be guided by Krishna. These are the prayers that whole Bhagavatam is there. And that's why even if we are struggling, we should not lose hope. We should try to follow in the footsteps of the Acharyas. And what was the result? Sudama went all the way to see Krishna. And Krishna made him sit down on the same throne, washed his feet, applied sandalwood, and spoke so sweetly to him. Anyone watching that would know that Krishna became conquered by the devotional service and the simplicity of character of Sudama. And Krishna never asked Sudama why he came. In fact, Sudama was so embarrassed that Krishna had to take out that flattened rice and he started eating it. And it didn't matter to Krishna whether it was old or it was not. And that was how the devotional Sudama captured Krishna. And when Sudama went to sleep, he thought, my God, I think I must be in heaven. Such amazing opulence. In the morning, was he thinking, now at least Krishna should ask me why I've come? He didn't. He left. And when he left, he kept thinking and reminding himself how wonderful it was to see Krishna. No hankering was in his heart. That's why he could see Krishna. But Krishna was feeling embarrassed, Bhagavatam tells us. Krishna, in that night when Sudama went to sleep, was working very hard because he was thinking in his transcendental brain. Now, this poor fellow Sudama, completely dedicated to me, he came to see me and he brought some cheap rice, and he did not even have any means to buy that rice. It was not even his. He had to go outside of his own arrangement to get something from his neighbor. What can I reciprocate to him? Someone who has nothing and yet has given everything. I have everything in this universe. Nothing is outside of me. So therefore, I'm actually defeated by Sudama. I cannot compensate or even match what he has done for me. So what does he do? Bhagavatam says, like a dark thunder cloud, that comes in the middle of the night and gives us rain and goes away in a hurry. Krishna, in the middle of the night while Sudama slept, transformed his poor home and his family members into wealth and opulence, such that when Sudama went back, he thought he had taken the wrong turn. He probably thought, I went to the wrong city. This is not Porbandar. And what happened? He saw his wife looking like Goddess Lakshmi. He saw his children looking so opulent. And he thought, this is amazing. And his wife said, I don't know what you asked from Krishna. Whatever you asked is amazing. And the reason why Krishna gives everything to a devotee who doesn't ask for anything is because the devotee is not attracted to unreasonable desires. So the practical point for us actually is we should sit down seriously and contemplate. We have so many desires in our heart. But how many of these desires are aligned to Krishna? How many of these desires actually make us instruments in Krishna's hands? How many of these desires are actually material hankerings and therefore they are lusty? Prabhupada writes an important statement which I said twice in the purport. He says that desires that cannot be fulfilled or cannot be obtained are considered to be karma. This is very important. I'm sure in many of our lives, we had some desire, some ambition. We try and try and try and try and try. And have you noticed, no matter how much we try, it's like banging your head on the wall. It's never obtained and never fulfilled. And sometimes, even when we think we have fulfilled it, the desire leads to more hankering and more hankering and more hankering. It is like a rabbit hole in the famous novel of Alice in Wonderland. It just doesn't end. So that's why it's very important to note what Prabhupada is advising us. If we ever have a desire that no matter how much we try to fulfill can never be obtained, please know that that desire will only agitate us because it's not aligned to Krishna. It is known in Bhagavatam in the first canto, 5th chapter. I think it's either the 11th or maybe 14th verse, right? It is known as Dushtita Matihi. It will cause our mind to oscillate. That is Narada's point to Vyas Bhagwan. Vyas Bhagwan was morose because while he did everything, he failed to connect whatever he did to the glorification of Krishna. So we should be very careful. A lot of our material desires are aimed at self-glorification. It is aimed at self-interest, and it is aimed at satisfying our lusty desires. Look at Hiranyakashipu. Look at Ravana. Look at Kamsa. They were all destroyed finally because they ran after that which could not be obtained. Ravana ran after Sita, didn't he? He had Mandodari. He had thousands of women. But he ran after that which he thought he could not get. And he forgot that Sita Mata and Ram were inseparable. And therefore he was destroyed the moment he started that journey. So it's very important for us to remember this point, that whatever desires we have, eventually the desires will consume us and we will forget Krishna. But the great devotees of the Lord, they are not like that. They're so great as devotees that they are completely surrendered to Krishna. When Durvasa Muni came back to see Krishna after he tried to kill Ambarish Maharaj and failed, and he was chased by Sudarshan Chakra, Krishna explains why these devotees are known as Samamati Bihi. He says in the 9th canto, 4th chapter, 63rd verse. He says very nicely there, Aham Bhakta Paradino Hi aswatantra ivadvija sadhu vigrasta hridayo bhaktai bhakta jana priyaha नाहमात्मानमाशा से मद्भक्तैः साधुभिर् विना श्रियं चाद्यान्तिकं ब्रह्मन् येषां गतिरहं परा ये धारागरा पुत्राप्ता प्राणान् वित्तम् इमां परम् हित्वा मां शरणं यताः कथं स्थां त्यक्तुमुत्सहे. And then he says, Mai nirbadda hridayam sadavaha samadarshanaha pashe kurvanti mam bhaktya satstriya satpatim yataha sadavo hridayam mayyam sadhunam hridayam tvam mat anyatena jananti naham tebhyo managapi. So these are 4 or 5 verses that are directly related to 6:16:34, and that which our Guru Maharaj told us to study very carefully in relation to this verse, because it tells us the nature and the qualities of the great devotees of the Lord that we should learn from, not imitate, but how we should learn from. So Krishna says that I'm completely under the control of my devotees. I'm not at all independent. He's Swarat in the first canto, first chapter, first verse. But in the presence of his devotees, because they have unmotivated devotional service, they have no material hankering, he says, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I'm not at all independent. Why? Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. This is known as nishkama. They have desires, but somehow they have channeled them to the service of devotees, to the service of the Lord, and bringing Krishna consciousness into this world. Then he says, my devotees do not have material desires. So there's plenty of space in their heart for me. And that's why I sit in the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotees? Bhakte Bhakta Jana Priyaha. So nice point. Even the great devotees are very dear to me. So that's our windows, Prabhus and Matajis. Even if we cannot be what 6:16:34 is, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of those who qualify as 6:16:34. And then very nicely, Krishna tells Durvasa Muni, do you know, Durvasa, that without these great devotees who are saintly by nature, I don't even want to enjoy my own bliss. I don't even want to enjoy my opulences. I'm not interested. Not interested. And then Krishna goes on so nicely to say that Mai Nirbada Hridaya. He says, do you know that just like chaste wives can actually bring their gentle husbands under control? This is an art actually. When a wife is chaste, when she has control of her senses, when she does not sit on her husband's head, the husband naturally bends to his wife. We have all seen this as grihasthas. And what happens? Her service mood controls her husband, not her controlling mood. It is her service mood that controls her husband. So then Krishna uses that analogy of the material world and says, these devotees of mine, they are equal to everyone. Samamati bihi. They are equal to everyone. And they are equipoised. And they are completely attached to me in the core of their hearts. Therefore, I, like a husband, become fully under their control. Then he says, the pure devotees are in the core of my heart. And I'm always in their hearts too. Why? Because my devotees know nothing else about anything else except me, and I do not know anything else except me. How wonderful. So that is a very important point to understand the greatness of the devotees. And this is why the devotees conquer Krishna. So pure devotees, as Prabhupada says, never deviate from bhakti anytime. They never do. Look at Vritrasur in the 6th canto. Look at him. Even though Indra was fighting him in a battle, and even though Vritasur was the great Indradyumna Maharaj before that, and he became a demon, by Krishna's grace, he never deviated from his devotional service to Krishna. And that's why it didn't matter to him. He says, Na kaprishtam, na chaparameshtam, na sarvabhaumam, na rasadipatyam, na yoga siddhir, apunar bhavam va, samanjasatva virahaya kangshe. He says he's not interested in being a ruler of the upper worlds, the lower worlds, even the middle worlds. He's not interested in Siddhi. He's not interested. Therefore, what he was telling Indra was, Indra, I'm fighting this war because it is my duty. But I'm not interested in your kingdom in case you are anxious. Because Indra was anxious. Indra's mood to come to that battlefield was, yes, he had to destroy the demons. But he was worried that he would lose Swargaloka. But even then, he forgot that Krishna, by dharmic principles, would always make sure that the devatas are protected. Because essentially they are devotees. The exception here was Vritrasur. Vritrasur showed us that it doesn't mean that a devotee must always take the form of a devata. A devotee can look like a demon, but his behavior can be devotee. Conversely, we can look like devotees, but the behavior can be anything but a devotee. And what did Vritrasur do? He did not deviate. As he was fighting with Indra, he did not become enamored about getting Swargaloka. No. He wanted to punish Indra because Indra broke an important principle in Vedic regulations. He killed a Brahmana, and there was his brother born of his father Twasta, Vishwarupa. And that is why it became the duty of Vritrasur to actually vanquish Indra. But Vritrasur also was agreeable to accept the plan of the Lord. And what was the plan of the Lord? The plan of the Lord was that Vritrasur will be defeated in this battle because the Lord had guaranteed, Vishnu Yantrito, he had guaranteed the victory of Indra by giving him this wonderful, thunderbolt weapon made from the bones of the great devotee Dadichi. And in the sixth canto, very nicely, Vritrasur accepts it. He says, why do you fear Indra? When Indra becomes Moros on the battlefield, when Vritrasur threw back his thunderbolt, and at that point Airavata fell back, Indra fell back, and his great weapon was further away from him. At that point, Vritrasur tells him, why do you fear? Krishna has guaranteed your victory. You don't have to worry about anything. As for me, why should I fear also? And then he sings his beautiful verses. Aham hare tava padaika mula dasanudaso bhavitasmi bhuyaham. This is his desire. His desire is that, my Lord, somehow or another, I just want to be able to serve the devotees of you. And in this way, I will serve you. I don't want nanaka prishtam, na chaparameshtam, na sarva bhaumam, na risadipatyam. He doesn't want all these things. Na yoga siddhir. He didn't want the siddhis. He just wanted an opportunity to serve Krishna. He didn't want the service. He said, give me an opportunity and I'll take that. We always say, give me service, give me service. But he took one step behind in humility and said, I may not be qualified for service if you think I'm not, but give me an opportunity because you are source of all opportunities. And if you see the purport, Prabhupada uses the word the opportunities for service. That is the mood of a devotee. So in happiness and distress, it doesn't matter. Tatenu kampam sushamikshmano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. So nicely it is stated. I think it is 10th canto, 14th chapter, I think. 10th canto, 14th chapter, 8th verse. Tatenu kampam sushamikshmano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Ridvagvapurbir vidadan namaste Jivetayo mukti padase pade sadaya bhav. Very important verse. 10, 14, 8. So this is nicely stated. And what does it say? The mood of a devotee who conquers Krishna is given in 10, 14, 8. And the qualification there is given in the word earnestly. Brahmaji says, my dear Lord, a devotee earnestly waits for you to bestow your mercy on him. Earnest means always anxious. Not the anxiety we have in this situation, but the anxiety of eagerness to serve Krishna, the eagerness to accept Krishna's plans, the eagerness to accept service. So the cousin of earnestness is eagerness, and the cousin of eagerness is enthusiasm. All three are E's actually. So if you have earnestness, you will have eagerness. If you have eagerness, you will become enthused in devotional service. And this is how devotees become happy in devotional service. And a devotee sees difficulties as reactions of his past misdeeds. Instead of blaming temple president, temple commander, blaming your yatra leader, blaming wife, children, I can't chant because you all are making noise. Devotee says, whatever my defects are, my defects. The buck stops with me. Maharaj told us that when you blame yourself, you know what is the great advantage? You save lots of time. To blame others requires time. To criticize others requires more time. To find fault in others requires extra time. So instead of wasting all that time, just absorb everything. It is your fault. I am not qualified. Sudama said, I am not qualified to get more than what Krishna wants to give me. Krishna thought, why should I give opulence to him? Sudama was thinking, because he knew I had become so attached to that, I will forget Krishna. So that's why he has not given me that. So it's my fault. See, when Bhumi Devi and Dharma, the cow and the bull, were beaten mercilessly by the personality of Kali, and Parikshit Maharaj saw that, he got down from his chariot and threatened to kill the personality of Kali, who then surrendered to him. He then turned to the cow and bull, Dharma and Bhumi Devi, and he told them, identify the perpetrator of this sinful act, and I will do and dispense justice. And instead of immediately pointing fingers, he's the one, because that's what we do, what did they say? The cow and the bull looked at each other and discussed Bhagavatam. They said, who is the remote cause of all this? Who is the perpetrator of anything? The remote cause of all causes is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So some people's opinions are that it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some people say it could be someone else. But frankly speaking, the cause of all causes is Krishna. So this is the mood of a devotee. And that is why in happiness or distress, as the purport says, they do not deviate. They increase their devotional service. Now we are in very unsettled time. But it's so nice that we are spending more time in devotional service. Because instead of worrying for things that we cannot do, instead of hankering for that which cannot be obtained, better we bury our heads in Bhagavatam and remember Bhagavatam. That is much better. And worship Krishna. And that is why the great devotees of the Lord, they see his hand and they accept his plan. It's a nice formula. They see his hand and they accept his plan. Many years ago, when Maharaj came to Singapore, he stated this point, and I remember writing it down, that the great devotees of the Lord, they see his hand and they accept his plan. And therefore, because that happens, they become agreeable to hearing about Krishna. They are agreeable to him. If you want to know where that line agreeable comes from, it's from the purport of the first canto, first chapter, second verse. It's very nice. In that Dharma Projita Kaitavo Atra Paramo verse, in the purport, there's a short paragraph on how we should hear Krishna. And that is very nicely stated, that we should hear him submissively, shushroshroho. We should hear him in a very agreeable manner. We should hear him in a very submissive manner. And we should not hear him in a challenging manner. To hear means to accept. To hear means to agree. So it's very important for us. And that is why in this purport, we understand that these are all the behaviors of the great devotees. And that is why all their desires were always fulfilled by Krishna, because their desires were not material. And that is why their devotional service was uninterrupted, which is the last point in Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada states this point about ahaituki apratihata. And we hear this, isn't it? Savai pumsam paro dharmo yator bhakti radok saje. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidti. I think it's first canto, second chapter, maybe seventh verse. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the important thing is that when we perform devotional service to Krishna, it must have two foundations. One, there should not be material motive in coming to Krishna. Don't use devotional service as a guise, and then inside it is all other desires actually. That should never be devotional service. Krishna will expose us. So many times, Indra came as a sannyasi, looking like a devotee, but he wanted to steal the horse. So eventually, even though he wanted to keep his ideal of 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices intact, Brahmaji awarded the same power as if Prithu Maharaj had finished 100, even though he did only 99. Because Indra pretended to be someone in devotional service. It's very important. So we should not try to cheat Krishna. And those who cheat Krishna, eventually they will be destroyed. And when they run after that which they cannot obtain, then the nakedness eventually comes out actually. So this point is important. And then Prabhupada says, if our desire and motive to come to Krishna for devotional service is correct, then our devotional service will never be hampered by any material condition. This is Prabhupada and our spiritual master's mercy on us today. We could be sitting in some corner of the world not being able to travel. I should have come to Abu Dhabi at some point. But despite the fact that we are not going anywhere, by Krishna's mercy, devotees are exhibiting sincerity. You all have made these arrangements, and therefore we are able to hear, discuss, and remember Krishna. This is how Krishna actually reciprocates. Devotional service should never stop, no matter what happens. It should always continue. And it can only continue when our motive is right. So every time we start some Bhagavatam reading and then stop, we start Mangalarati and we stop, don't blame anything. Look to our hearts. Inspect our own hearts. Somewhere in our hearts, the Dhrida Vrataha, the determination to serve Krishna, it is absent. And because we are not single-minded in our determination to serve Krishna, we become not Eka Kurunandana, or we become many-branched. Many-branched. And in the hearts of those who are many-branched and very materially motivated, the resolute determination of devotional service cannot take place. I think that verse is in Bhagavad Gita, I think it is 244 or 241, somewhere there, I think. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekaha kurunandana bahu saka hi anantascha buddhaya avyavasayinam. That is the point that I just said. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. But those who are on the path of devotional service, ahaituki apratihata, motivation to only serve Krishna causes their determination to improve. So if you're motivated only to serve Krishna, you can be assured Krishna will give you the determination. But those who are not like that, further down, I think it's 244, Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam, Taya aprita chetasam, Vyavasayatmika buddhi, samadhav na vidiyate. To those who are attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, it can be one object, but you could be attached to it and forget Krishna. You become bewildered. You lose your intelligence. And the resolute determination of devotional service does not take place. So that's why Prabhupada is saying this. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, the result of us not having proper motive to approach Krishna is that we become deprived of intelligence. It's in the purport. We become deprived of intelligence. And then we don't see what is coming. People advise us very nicely, but we can't see it. It's a blind spot for us, very dangerous. A good example I was reading yesterday was the false Vasudeva, in Krishna book. Not our Vasudev, but the false Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the supreme personality of Godhead. But King Paundraka, once upon a time, surrounded by all the Asad Sangha of ministers, they tried to elevate his moroseness by telling him that actually he is the supreme personality of Godhead. And Krishna book tells us, that he began believing a lie, because very often we also want to believe lies. And what happened was he sent a messenger to Krishna telling him, false Vasudeva, hand over all your implements, including your discus, your mace, your conch, lotus flowers, send them all to me. Because guess what? I am the original Vasudeva. If you don't do it, I'll come and I'll destroy you. With what? With that disc that you're holding, which actually belongs to me. So then what happens? Vasudeva Krishna is in Dwarka, and the messenger comes, from Paundraka. And after messenger has read everything, there was a silence. And then all the courtiers in the assembly of Dwarka, including Krishna, laughed and laughed and laughed. And Krishna said, I'll give you a message for him. Tell him that he should stop this nonsense of thinking he's me. And I have nothing to surrender to him. But what will happen is, if he doesn't stop this, I'm going to come. And my Sudarshan Chakra will reach him, but it will reach him to sever his head. And his body, which is lifeless, will be left to the dogs, the jackals, and the vultures. Paundraka reads it and becomes upset. And Krishna immediately dispatched his entire army of Dwarka with him leading it. So they met on the fields of the kingdom of Kasi, because he was staying with his good friend Kasi at that time, the king of Kasi. And what happened was, there was no great battle actually. At least with others, there was some battle. But when Krishna saw the false Vasudeva, again he started laughing. So this is one of the unique pastimes of Krishna, where he's laughing and looking at the demons. Generally, Krishna would smile or he would become very strong. But with Paundraka, Krishna was very tickled. I think the entertainment value of Paundraka to Krishna was 11 out of 10. It was very high. So what happened was, he saw Paundraka and he felt, really, this is real nonsense. Because Prabhupada describes Paundraka as a joke. He was an imitation. And he was holding all these false implements with him, And I think he tried to look like Krishna. But actually, he had nowhere close to Krishna. So what happened was, Krishna then started smashing the entire army with his bow, with his arrows and his weapons. He didn't even have to turn to his own army. And when Paundraka rushed forward, Krishna said, Paundraka, you wanted this discus, isn't it? Get ready now, it's coming to you. Except that it didn't come to his hand. It severed his head so fast, he did not even know what happened. So the point that we are saying is, many, many personalities in this world, because their material hankerings and their lust is overpowering, because their material motives are so strong, first, they become deprived of their intelligence. And then they try to take something which they think they can conquer. But they don't realize that you cannot conquer Krishna in the way Paundraka tried to conquer Krishna. Mother Yashoda had no armies. Mother Yashoda had no education. Hanumanji did not have a proper house. The elephant Gajendra only had a lotus flower he could offer after 1,000 years of being held by the crocodile. Sudama had no bank account. Parikshit Maharaj was doomed to die in 7 days. And yet, Krishna was conquered by every one of them. Every one of them. Which now brings us to the conclusion. When we have desires, which we all have, these desires should be reasonable. So nicely Prabhupada puts it. Reasonable means they should be practical. Practical in such a way that somehow or another we become aligned to Krishna. This is very important. And the second point that's really important is, when we question our own motives, Krishna will reveal to us in our hearts through our spiritual masters and Prabhupada where we are lacking. And a devotee must put aside their pride and accept the hand of Krishna. And they must also not just see his hand, but they must also accept his plan. The moment a devotee tries to do that, Krishna will follow that devotee. And I want to end, by remembering Sakshi Gopal. You all know the story, so we won't go through it because it's 12. Here it's 12:30. It's 1 hour already. But in Sakshi Gopal's case, you remember the deity was far away in Vrindavan, and he was a witness to what was spoken between an elderly Brahmana and a younger Brahmana. And the elderly Brahmana was so pleased by the younger Brahmana's service. And Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us the younger Brahmana did not serve the elder Brahmana with profit. No. He did not even know the elder Brahmana had a daughter of marriageable age. Sometimes there is misinterpretation to this pastime. And in some sources, they say that the younger Brahmana had fallen in love with the daughter and he was hoping to get a hand in marriage. No. When you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, this younger Brahmana was poor, but he was very truthful. And he did not ask that the elder Brahmana should promise to give daughter to him. But once the elder Brahmana promised it, then it became the duty of the younger Brahmana to ensure, as a Brahmana, he must upkeep what he has said, because that is his dharma. So they prayed in front of Sakshi Gopal and said that he will be the witness of this transaction. But when they came back, the elderly Brahmana situation was such, he was perplexed. It was not really his fault, but his wife and his belligerent son, was very asuric in nature and did not have faith in Krishna. They refused this marriage to a very poor Brahmana. They wanted a better marriage in terms of material things. So they tried to push and pressure the Brahmana such that when the younger Brahmana came, the elder Brahmana had to deny him. And so the younger Brahmana was forced to say that I have a witness to this. If I have a witness, he told the whole village and the family, if I bring a witness and that witness says he witnessed this, will you then accept the marriage? And the boy asked, the brother of the girl, or rather the son of the elderly Brahmana asked, who is your witness? And he said, my witness is the most reliable witness in the world. And the boy and the son asked, who? And he said, it is Gopala, the deity of Gopal. He's in Vrindavan, and he witnessed it. And the villagers laughed. And this son of the Brahmana thought, this is really, really funny. How can a deity become witness to anything? So then they all were laughing. And the younger Brahmana said, if I call the witness to come here, will you accept what he says? And then at that point of time, because of the faith of the younger Brahmana, because of his unwavering determination, and because he had no other desire except to save the name and the reputation of the elderly Brahmana, what happened was Krishna, as the super soul, acted in the hearts of these three personalities very mysteriously. Prabhupada writes it in the purport of Madhya Leela. It is Madhya Leela chapter 5, the activities of Sakshi Gopal. You can read it when you have time. But what happened was, Krishna is super soul, right? So he's in the heart of the elder Brahmana, younger Brahmana, and the son. So when the statement was made, I will call Gopala as my witness, the younger Brahmana, the younger boy, the son, not the younger Brahmana, the son said, I agree to it. He agreed to it. Why? Because he said it will never happen. There's no faith in Krishna. It'll never happen. So he agreed to it. The elder Brahmana agreed to it because he said, my Gopal will come and save me. So this is how the super soul can align everything which appears complicated. Why? Because he's Krishna. He's unconquerable, and only he can conquer anything. But because the younger Brahmana was such a devotee of the Lord, he traveled all the way and spoke to Gopal and said, Gopal, please come. And the Gopal deity spoke to him and said, I can't come. Who has ever heard of a deity walking to bear witness? And the younger Brahmana said, who has heard of a devotee talking to a devotee? And then Gopal said, yeah, actually it's true. I have never heard of a deity talking, but I'm talking. So the younger Brahmana said, if you can talk, you can walk. And that's how Sakshi Gopal was conquered by the love, the simplicity, and the implicit faith that the Brahmana had in him. And he went all the way and he bore witness to what would have been a disastrous event for the elder Brahmana. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudev ki, Yatai Gaura Premananda. Thank you for your time, Prabhu's Matajis, and sorry I ended a bit late. Are there any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam. Sudama Pradas here.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, in the first part of your class, you're talking about how the Brahman Sudama went to Krishna and he did not reveal any of his desires or any of his requests that his wife had made, because he knew whatever the Lord is going to do for his good, and he did not go with any motives in mind. He just approached the Lord without any motives, right? But in today's day and age, we see, yes, we can consider that Sudama was a very exalted personality, an exalted Brahmana, and he had a certain relationship with Lord. But in normal day-to-day circumstances, practicing devotees like us, whenever we approach the Lord, no matter how much hard we try, there'll be still in the back of the mind, we also know there'll be some or the other desire lurking in the mind. We might not be openly asking the Lord, but there'll be still some desires lurking in the mind. So in that scenario, how to cultivate, or how to go on that path to cultivate the mind that surrender to Krishna is for our good, and we don't need to sort of ask him for stamp on our plans. Rather, we should accept whatever he brings, his plans, and go by it. So how to do that?
Very nice question, Sudama Prabhu. Actually, the answer is that devotional service is gradual, and the effects of devotional service is also gradual. And that's why Rupa Goswami tells us in Nectar of Instruction that for spiritual aspirants like us, we should have three very important qualities. We should be patient in the discharge of our devotional service. We should have confidence that Krishna will guide us, and we should remain enthused. So even if we have some material desires in our heart, Shukadeva Goswami also says in Bhagavatam that whether we have desires, we have no desires, or or our desire is to serve Krishna, somehow or another, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, with single-minded devotion, we go to Krishna. But what will happen now is, Prabhu, as we go on in devotional service, our sincere prayer to Krishna should be that Krishna knows our hearts and he knows whatever desires we have. But we should show Krishna that we are making a sincere effort to check the desires which are born out of hankering and which are unreasonable. And we know that too. If Krishna sees we are trying our best to put aside these desires, or if Krishna sees we are helpless and we need guidance, but if Krishna sees our heart and devotional mentality that we want to get past these material hankerings, it is Krishna who will give us the strength to do that, either directly or very often through the agency of sadhu sangha, like what we are getting now, so that we all become earnestly determined to get past our unlawful desires and help each other, or through the agency of our spiritual masters who have so much potency that overnight, if they pray, they can all imbibe us with pure devotion. So, not to be discouraged, Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardana. So, he knows the difficulties and challenges we have, but he never takes it into account. But if a devotee is honest enough to admit to Krishna, Krishna, these are my failings, and I do not want to be guided by them. I want to see your hand and accept your plan. Then Krishna will give you the facilities, Prabhu. Except that we should be patient and we should continue to prosecute our devotional service. And at some point or another, we should have the faith that Krishna will alter our consciousness. Is that helpful, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, pretty much. Sorry, I know there'll be people waiting for other questions, but can I just extend my question one more point that
Sure.
I just want to get the opinion. So you also said that great devotees always see that they see his hand and accept his plan, right? You made that point that they see the Lord's
Yes.
hand and then
Yes.
his plan. So sometimes when his plan is not aligned to our plan, sometimes it may be even to the extent that it might be totally contrary. Then in that scenarios, how do we take it? How do we understand that, or how do we still continue to have that patience to continue our devotional service and accept his plans?
If our plans are completely not aligned to his plans, because his plans are always perfect, but our plans are not perfect, then we should accept first that he is the Lord, he's supreme, he knows best. And that what we want, if it's not in line with what he wants, despite our attempts to try something, we should cultivate humility, and we should learn to use our intelligence to realize I'm banging my head on the wall. Krishna and the devotees are telling me something else. I'm stubborn and proud of my own thinking and intelligence, and I'm doing something else. It's time to bow my head, and it's time to learn to see things in a different perspective. This is how a devotee uses his intelligence to come to that stage of realization. It's not an easy stage, Prabhu, but it can come when we discuss these matters and we discuss them in the association of devotees whom we have faith in. Then their faith will rub off on our faith as sadhu sangha, and our minds will change. A good example of the opposite effect of this was how mantra could change Kaikeyi's mind 180 degrees. She did it by constantly giving her association. And even though Kaikeyi resisted in the beginning, she submitted. If the opposite is true, then that formula is also workable for us. We may resist good association, but if finally we decide to submit to good advice, from Bhagavatam, from Sastras, from Guru, Sadhu and Sastra, then no matter how difficult it is, Prabhu, eventually Krishna will give us the strength to give up something which is so misaligned with his plan. If we don't, then he will punish us through the stringent laws of material nature, and we get what we call the slabs of Maya. Either way, Krishna gets his way.
Jai, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for that.
Prabhuji,
insights.
Dandat Pranam. Prabhuji,
Dhanavad.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam. Just wanted to request you to one more time elaborate on the earnest, eager, and enthusiastic. Hare Krishna.
Earnestness, eagerness, and enthusiasm.
That
When you're
reference
earnest about something, sorry? Oh.
to Bhagavatam and giving this, so if you can kindly elaborate on this, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Earnestness means in Bhagavatam 10:14a, the word earnestness is used. To be earnest means that we understand that Krishna's hand is in something and we don't become moros. We don't see it as an act of some demonic force. We don't see it as someone trying to, exploit us or put us down. So when an event that happens, which is like calamitous, a devotee's earnestness is not affected because he has faith that Krishna is there and Krishna has some plan. So earnestness actually is defined by how much of enthusiasm we have. Are we always ready to do kirtan like you do, Raghuveer Prabhu? Are we always ready to hear Bhagavatam and find opportunities to be with devotees and do service? We have to keep that enthusiasm going. And enthusiasm can only grow in sadhana and sadhu sangha. And if we are enthused about something, then we will be earnest. Earnestness also implies that our heart is in it, not just our mind and intelligence. When you're earnest about something, you're like an eager beaver, you're ready to do it. So the heart must be in it. Prabhupada says devotional service is a heart-to-heart transaction, isn't it? In 10th canto, when Vasudev and Devaki Mata were going to receive Krishna, Vasudev meditated on Krishna and Krishna appeared in his mind, went into his heart, and then he transferred Krishna by way of Diksha and initiation from the heart of him to the heart of Devaki Mata. And then from the heart of Devaki Mata, Krishna glowed in her womb. So Prabhupada writes, devotional service is heart-to-heart transaction. It's not a business exchange. So if you have earnestness, which is fueled by enthusiasm and which is fueled by eagerness, enthusiasm must come when you know that this process is so blissful, that this is the only process that keeps you happy. Then you become very enthused. If you're not enthused to do something, Prabhu, then no matter how enticing it is, you become moros. So we have to have the determination to become enthused. So determination is like a platform for enthusiasm, for us to become eager, and for us to become very earnest. When a devotee is resolutely wanting to serve Krishna, all these qualities of earnestness, enthusiasm, confidence, they all manifest. And then they will strengthen our determination. And the determination strengthens our confidence. And the confidence strengthens our enthusiasm. But none of this will happen if we are not submissive in the sense of wanting to at least perform the devotional service nicely. That's the best I can elaborate given our time, Prabhu. I hope it's useful.
Dandavats. Thank you. Heart-to-heart transaction. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Hare Krishna, Devakinandan Prabhu. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Prabhu, for your time.
Thank you, Prabhu.
It is a really very blissful and very wonderful. I liked everything, whatever you said, Prabhu, but one of the things I liked most, you defined very wonderfully what is unreasonable desire. And what I understood, something which cannot be obtained is unreasonable. And if anything is unreasonable, that will agitate our mind. And on this thing, another thing I understood, that whatever is reasonable, for that we don't have to endeavor. Like if I want the air, if I want the sun, if I want the water, we don't have to endeavor much. But whenever it becomes unreasonable, we have to endeavor a lot. And so,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your time.
No,
And I
thank you,
wish
Prabhu. It's very nice point you brought up, because the endeavor that is for Krishna never saps our energy. In fact, it gives us energy. But the endeavor for anything which cannot be obtained will sap our energy. It will mentally drain us, emotionally wipe us out, and physically it will affect us. So this is a good test to understand, whether we are touching Krishna or we are touching the material nature. And yadrichayaha is what you described. That which comes in the course of our own, in the ordinary course of activities, without so much endeavor, that is actually considered as our quota. But devotional service endeavor is in a totally different category altogether. That's why devotees are very happy and blissful. We may wake up very early in the morning. It's very early for you all in Abu Dhabi. You chanted and then now you're hearing class. You should be tired. But even though your body and your mind is telling you, I'm tired, somehow the intelligence and the heart is still blissful. So there is a big difference actually. Thank you, Prabhu. I will conclude now with
yes,
all your
thank you so
blessings.
much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Dandavad. All glories to Prabhupada and all glories to Srila Gurudev.
Yes,
And
Devakinandan
wishing all of
Prabhu.
you, wishing all of you the best in your devotional service. I will
Thank you
leave
so
now.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Devakinandan. Devakinandan Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Girivardhari Prabhu, thank you for organizing. Hare Krishna.
Very good.